Every year in the month of February, anticipation rolls around as the perfect word to describe a new season cracking out of its shell. For the highest level of sim racing, anticipation lies not only in the ones looking for $300,000 at the top, but with countless drivers looking to make the first step into what could be the biggest moment of their entire careers, and it all starts right here. Off the shores of sunny Daytona Beach nestles the virtual Daytona International Speedway, where tonight we welcome you to the very start of the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series as we bring you all of the coverage live on Podium Esports. We are ecstatic to bring another great season of qualifying racing to you, where alongside Rachel Whiteford in the broadcast booth at the World Center of Racing, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Rachel, there is no question about it. This is the very first place you go to if you want to be a recurring eNASCAR Coke Series driver, a new driver looking to make it into the fold, or somewhere in between. This place right here is where it all begins for many drivers on their step to $300,000 and a big-time cash prize in the top level of NASCAR racing.
Well, you see it there on top of the grandstands, the World Center of Racing. This is Daytona International Speedway. This is where statements are made, careers are born, and some careers end. This place is the big time. From those big high banks right to that tri-oval, this is where the journey will start for a lot of our Road to Pro drivers this season, and it's going to be a fantastic journey.
And it all starts right here at a track that, if you're an oval sim racing fan, you know all too well. The World Center of Racing, otherwise known as Daytona International Speedway, located just in Volusia County in Daytona Beach, Florida. 31 degrees of banking alongside each and every corner. It's a total of 2.5 miles, 4.02 kilometers around this entire speedway. And this, Rachel, is a track that really tests a lot of the best sim races and real life races, because when you start a NASCAR season, you start here. If you want to be a Rolex endurance driver, you start the season also right here. So this track, very prestigious, very fast, very intricate, and that means it provides for some fantastic racing, especially with the trucks we're going to see here tonight.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we're going to see some big racing here tonight. This is going to be where we get that big pack racing. We're going to see these guys going wheel to wheel, door to door, and these trucks are going to be bumping and banging here on those high banks. I cannot wait to see this one. We're going to have these guys really put it all out to dry here. They're going to go for absolutely everything. And this is really that track where any of these guys can win. This is where you can go from the back to the front, from the front to the back, from the front to the grandstands. It all depends on what happens to you on that racetrack and how you play your strategy and this race.
The door, of course, wide open for any driver looking to get into the Coke Series. And tonight, of course, Daytona, we've got that on tap, but there is a lot of great racing over the course of the round one schedule. A very different look from last season, Rachel. Got Las Vegas right after Atlanta Motor Speedway. Some newer differences. Dover Motor Speedway makes its debut, I believe, in this round around that time in April. Kansas, and then all the way to Charlotte. That rounds out the round one schedule. And remember, this is one of two rounds in this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Of course, they take the top 70 in round one before they head to round two, and then they slim that down to the 20 that make it over to the eNASCAR Road to Pro Contender iRacing series. A long way to go before we get to the last lap and the last finish of round number 2 and round number 1. We'll look forward to what's going to be the race here tonight. 80 laps is the distance, 200 miles, 256 kilometers. We'll go to 3 green-white-checkered attempts if we need them at the end of the event. No fast repairs, a very big talking point over the course of tonight. If you get damaged, you have to spend the time on pit road trying to get it all fixed. It's an open setup event, just like every round of eNASCAR competition. Rachel, I think that's one of the biggest plays to this series and to the entire ladder to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series is the fact that you've got open setups, which allows for teams to band together, drivers to band together, setup builders to band together, and at least at this point, be able to put on the best setup for their truck.
Yeah, really excited to see what these guys can do tonight, but we are ready getting into those moments now. We're going to see exactly what these people are putting on the board, but this is going to be super strategic. Can't wait.
It's going to be an amazing event. Drivers right now putting in our qualifying times. We're going to take a short break, but on the other side, we'll have full coverage of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series from the World Center of Racing. Don't go anywhere. We've got more coming up next. Green flag on the way. Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway, where we are just moments away from the green flag in round 1 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Kenneth Bueno, Rachel Whiteford along with you, with Ryan Bauer producing all of the shots this evening. We are ready to head trackside as we will bring you your starting grid tonight from Daytona. See exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight on the high banks in Daytona Beach, Florida. Andrew Navarro in the 21 nabs the fastest time of the field, a 52.021. He will be on the pole tonight, bringing us to the green flag first, alongside David Brown in the 17 for the first row. Kenny Brady in the 6 car will line at the inside of row number 2 in P3, and former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Santiago Tires in the 19 will be on his outside in P4. We saw Jesse Atchison just this weekend in the Podium 500. He will be 5th on the starting grid tonight, alongside Jake Nichols, I believe previous Coke Series talent as well, in that 3rd row. Jordy Lopez Jr., a previous winner in the Road to Pro Series from Daytona. He will line up P7, trying to get a 2nd win in his career here at this track in this competition. Justin Bolton, former Coke Series driver as well for Storhaus Esports. He'll be on his outside in P8. Tyler Gary in the 20, you'll find him in P9 with Kevin King to his outside to round out row number 5. Rachel, that's your top 10.
It is indeed. Row number 6 is Brad Davis on the inside with Brad Mayar on the outside. That's Brad row number 6 there. Daniel Felkingham on row 7 inside with Logan Kress on his outside there in 14th place. Row number 8 is going to be Tucker Minter and Tyler Severa, with row number 9 Seth the Merchant and Parker White. Row number 10 is going to be Casey Tucker and Michael Cozy Jr.
Michael Cozy Jr., very good at the super speedways. We'll see how he can do from P20. Boyd Hogan will be just behind him in 21st. Alex McCollum, also previous eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver. He's 22nd. Drew Fairnage in the 15. He'll be 23rd, with Daniel Roper in the 11 on the outside in row number 12. Justin Norwood and Matt Danson will be all the way through the drivers back in 26. Brian M. Smith, he is 27th, with Joel Blewett in the 2 car out in 28th. Devin Curl and Justin Trombley round out the drivers in the top 30 before you get to Larry Pace, Kane Cook, Tim Sozio, Christopher Pfeffer, and P.J. Evans, the final driver in this 35 truck field from the Daytona International Speedway. And obviously, Rachel, this is one of many races in this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, just because this is open to everybody. If you've got an open set, if you've got the content, you can go out and run it. Obviously, you need an A-class license as well, but many drivers, thousands really on end, coming to this very track here. So this is really the first taste of action. Top split only here tonight, broadcasted on Podium, but we know behind the scenes so many other splits with many talented drivers on tap.
Oh, absolutely. All the splits tonight are going to be having phenomenal racing, so keep your eyes on that as we come down the back straight here. A number of guys didn't qualify here from 28th backwards. Maybe that's strategic for some of these guys to do, because I think they've got plans to stay away from the trouble. These guys, 26 qualifiers within 0.2 of each other. This is Daytona qualifying. It's basically all the same. I would rather be at the very front or the very back. It's the safe places.
Just gotta hold your foot to the floor, hold the left, and make sure you can get the right line to get the fastest lap. And you mentioned, Rachel, some of them not taking time, figure that they want to avoid the big one that's imminent here at a track like Daytona. But we're ready to bring the entire 35 truck field onto full song and full horsepower. It's a Toyota Tundra and a Chevrolet Silverado. Andrew Navarro, David Brown to bring us to the green flag, and we are underway for the very first round of the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series.
Yeah, we have indeed, and I've just got news here. Cozy Jr. started on pit road, so he's coming off pit road there to get onto this track. Maybe he's expecting the worst here, but we're coming through 2 now, and we've got a big run up here. There's going to be 8 trucks deep, 2 wide at the front there, getting themselves out of 2. Twosome a little bit further back there on the high side. Everyone's shuffling now as they settle onto the back straight, and we get ourselves rolling here at Daytona. Those engines roaring. This is truck racing, baby. 17 down from the top side, locks it in on the bottom into number 3.
David Brown takes immediate control of the race lead in front of Navarro. You're right on board with the 13 of Kevin King. There were 4 trucks strong on that outside lane. Now they're going to pick up another Logitech G Altus Esports truck. Seems to be behind them, and just a couple of rows behind, it appears to be Jordy Lopez Jr. in the 16 truck. And we mentioned, Rachel, there, Michael Cozy Jr. starting from the pits. Day 2, part of Logitech G Altus Esports, one of 11 trucks in this Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. So best know that Logitech G Altus Esports is here to play. They were here to play last year. They're going to try to do the same here to get some of their drivers into the Coke Series field and into the Contender Series in just a couple of months' time. But so far down the back straightaway on lap 2, David Brown, a big shove from Navarro. He will lead the field convincingly into turn 3.
Yeah, huge push there from Navarro into 21. He's really digging this thing early on, trying to make a bit of space here. Kenny Brady there behind them in that 6 machine, looking for some action here. You think the Logitech boys might be stacking this a bit with 11 trucks? You think they're definitely wanting to get people in here? Definitely a split strategy amongst them all, though. We're seeing some different runs, but right now this is the early time where everyone's trying to make that initial move, get some separation here, get some movement, and try and wait for whatever's going to happen so they can start to find a rhythm here, because that's what we want, a long green run where things settle down. Everyone's gone single file now. That's important. These guys are settling in now. We're on lap 3 at the moment, which is going to be important because these guys want to make sure they're in the right place here and they're going to settle us in, because this is about 45 minutes if everything goes green. Like that's going to happen. But they're going to push as hard as they can, of course. They really want to make sure they get these cars in a great position, stay strong, and have somewhere to go if it does go wrong.
Right on board there for a moment with the 3 of Tucker Minter. He's got Seth the Merchant, previous Podium 500 champion, just behind him in 19th, and they're forming somewhat of a second pack and are trying to catch up to Tyler Severa in the 10 truck, who is now just lagging back here in 17th, just behind this very long line of trucks. And it appears already, Rachel, for the moment that this is the long game here at Daytona. I know it's 80 laps, not necessarily the longest race out of any stretch here from this track in sim or in real life, but with the way things are structured, with the way chaotic racing forms very quickly at tracks like these, with this package, I figure a lot of drivers just want to stay single file, log as many laps as possible, and then that's when they'll start to reach their hand out and start to play things a little more aggressive and maybe go for 2-3 wide action. We've seen it multiple times on end in many different races with these trucks. And speaking about these trucks, Rachel Whiteford, of course, we mentioned the open setups, the fact that these drivers and teams have the ability to tinker as much as they can to pass tech and to be as fast as possible, trying to get the right balance of handling and speed, especially at a track like Daytona International Speedway. And then you also bring in the fact that naturally, even with fixed setup, these trucks are kind of lower power. They've got a lot of downforce, a lot of side force, and what that usually results in is very big runs down the straightaways in the draft. So should we expect some 2-3 wide racing at some point later tonight? You're going to see a lot of drivers maneuver those runs, and when they get the runs, when they get the huge draft on the driver right in front of them, best believe they're going to make that move.
Yeah, they are. And one I wanted to just point out, we saw him a few times there on the camera. Jordi Lopez Jr. up on the high side. He was holding himself up there. He was dedicating himself to that run, and he's gone backwards now. But he's picked up a line of trucks. This could mean he could start going forward with that momentum from those guys. He's dropped down now, but they were a little bit earlier on in a big knot of cars. So he's got himself in a position where he can try and start to move here, but he's going to have to go soon. The train is coming. So maybe that high side decision needs to be a little bit earlier, because if these guys pick that momentum, like you said, they can go somewhere with it, but it's going to take a few more trucks to get this to actually operate.
And speaking of the high side, we've got a couple of trucks there already, about 5 strong, led by the driver up at the front. That is Matt Danson in the 25. Looks like he's got also Logitech G Alta C Sports colors on him, so he is one of those 11 trucks riding for Coke Series potentiality. He's got a couple of drivers to help right behind him. Joel Blewett in his machine. Just behind, there's a 14 truck. I believe that is Justin Trombley, Larry Pace, a bunch of drivers down at the bottom. But for the most part, majority of the field all the way at the inside of the racetrack. So it appears throughout the first 6 laps, Rachel, that it looks like nobody wants to really hang out to the outside. Nobody wants to start anything for now. Looks like everybody wants to be the inside. And also one thing, these trucks cannot make it all the way to the end on fuel. So guaranteed at least one pit stop before this race is over. So maybe if they can log as many laps as possible in the draft, not have to worry about potential cautions, they can just set their plan up for what could be a strategy that can get them to victory lane.
Yeah, it really could. And I think they've noticed we've gone here 7 laps now. If we were going to have an incident, it would have happened already. Right now, they're thinking, okay, get ready for a green flag run here. Find a dance partner, find some friends, let's get settled in and let's run these trucks. Let's run the fuel, let's run the tires, let's make sure these things are behaving themselves. Let's see how the race develops. Because right now, that group at the back there, they're starting to come forwards on the outside. It's slow, but it's happening. And soon, some more people will join them. We'll get some action here. But it's a couple of Logitech trucks who are leading those packs. So these guys are definitely trying to work something here. And it's about trying to get themselves into that sequence, but also read how the race is flowing. Right now, it's pretty sedate. That will not last.
Probably not shocker that the Logitech G Altus Esports trucks working together on the very high side. As he set the Merchant, one of the trucks in there. He's got a couple of trucks just in front of him. It looks like Tucker Minter being one of them, and the other truck just behind them right in front of them rather, in Jordy Lopez Jr. in his truck. They're all now starting to catch up. It looks like driver right in front might have taken notice. They're going to go up to the top. It seems to be Santiago Tires that wants to join the Logitech G Altus train all the way on the very outside. And you said it, Rachel, slow progress, but it is progress nonetheless. And so Tires caught the momentum, caught the front end of this draft. And now he's going to try and catch into what could be third on the inside lane where Kenny Brady is in turn 2.
Yeah, and this train started to move. It wasn't anywhere at first, but now look at them. They're up to the third place truck on the inside lane there. They are hauling this thing now. This is how you get the movement going. You have to get a solid, locked-in group of trucks together. If you can get a good group who are sat together, look at that movement. They're up to second. They're almost up to the leader as they come into the turn. And it's about trying to get these guys hooked up properly. If you're moving around too much, it will not work. If you get a good group of trucks together who are going to work together, who are going to commit to the push, you can get something done. Now, if this leader just dives in to the lead, he's going to stall that whole line out, and it will just kill the whole thing. But if they're going to commit to it, they can bring this whole line through here on the high side and bring everyone up. And I think that would be a very sound bet, because you're going to make friends by doing that. And that is the real racing of the super speedways. Make friends, not positions. Because if you bring all 5 of those trucks with you to the front, they're not going to drop you next time. Whereas if you just duck on in and leave them all to hang and let the airflow stall out and they go backwards, next time they're with you, they ain't helping.
And also could pose into the fact that you'd probably want to have teammates in a race like this, much like the Logitech G Altus Esports trucks are right now, because let's say if they try to make friends with somebody and they don't want to accept any of the kind gestures that are offered, they can just say, all right, I'll be away from you then. I'll just go with my teammates. I'll work together on that front, and I'll still be a couple of trucks strong instead of you, where you kind of have to bounce around the field guessing who is actually your friend and who's not. So in the case of teams, working very well at the super speedways. And if you can recall, last year in this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series at Talladega, this team, Logitech G Altus Esports, was in full force. At one point, they were dominating either the inside or the outside lane, and it looked like as soon as they got together nose to tail, they were practically unbeatable. And it looks like for the moment on the outside line, that seems to be the case. That was, I believe, Kane Cook, who had made his move to the very bottom. Kane Cook, one of the former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers in this field. I think that's going to be something you'll see over the course of the entire season, Rachel, is many drivers who are going in for the very first time, head first into the water, but many, like Kane Cook, they've been around this feature before. They've been around this type of racing in prior history, and they also know what it's like to compete in the Contender Series, which is the higher level above this as well. So if you've got experience at all 3 levels of sim racing, there probably is an advantage there, Kane Cook being one of them tonight.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a chicken out there we saw from Kane Cook. He dove down. He thought, this is stalling out. I'm going to secure what I've got here now. And it's that sort of thing that breaks up a whole line of trucks. Now, if these Logitech guys can get together, they'll keep sailing. They can coordinate, they can push it, they can make it air to allow the trucks to cool down, of course. But Kane Cook, he just backed out. He had the experience to know, this is stalled, this ain't going anywhere. Pull it back, just ride in line, just drop out now, maintain what I've got, and this will not go as badly as it could have been. But he just dropped himself out of that to maintain. It's an experience thing. He did the right move, I think, for him. Maybe not for that whole line, because look at them now, they're stalling here, they're just sitting here, and it's a slow march backwards unless they get some more help to get momentum.
I think he found the place on the inside line. That's just in between the 4 of Brad Mahar and the 13 of Kevin King. And if you look behind Kane Cook, pretty much everybody around 12th on back have fallen a little bit in terms of the draft. A lot of them still working single file, but I believe many of them just want to hang off the throttle just a little bit, not be 100% all the way in partial effort to save fuel here. And so Kevin King and many of the drivers right behind might be on that case to do just that for what could be a potential fuel strategy race. It's already looking like that in the first 13 laps. We've only seen at least 1 or 2 charges on the very high side. It looks like everybody, for the most part, wants to stay all the way to the bottom. And David Brown, who had taken the lead away, he has not relinquished his. He rode on board with Jordy Lopez Jr., previous Daytona winner in the Road to Pro Series. So he's got some experience racing on the super speedways, and obviously going for the checkered flag here tonight. It'll be a second win at the World Center of Racing in this type of competition if he can get it done. And of course, with Jordy Lopez in that team of Logitech G Altus, he's going to have a lot of speed as he continues to try and hang on in this 4 or 5 truck battle up on the top. You can see Seth the Merchant there in the 7 machine. He's hanging kind of near the tail end of this large pack up at the top, but they're just kind of holding their own. No space on the bottom. It's pretty much the only place they can be.
Now, what's going to be a problem here is in about 15 seconds of lap time, they're going to come up on Michael Cozy Jr. He made the gamble of an early yellow, and he went out of pit road. Unfortunately, this baby's gone green. We're 15 laps in. He's got to have a pit in his stomach right now and hoping for something before he goes a lap down here. But it is not an ideal situation there. Now, weird enough, these trucks, when you're in a threesome with these trucks, the best thing to you to do as a second car there is to back off the gas slightly, which sounds so counterintuitive, but it does exactly what you need. It backs you onto the bumper of the truck behind you, which breaks that air bubble, and they both go forwards, which picks up the guy in front and pushes them forwards as well, and that creates the suction that drags the whole line with you. And it's that second truck in line that really is doing the work here in any of these lines. They're the one that's really making this thing work, and it will have good performance, good potential. The outside has got a good run here again. Will anyone pop out to join them? But popping out to try and join the back is super risky. You can fall off the back of a line like this so easily.
And you mentioned Michael Cozy Jr., who's now working with the lap truck of Tim Solzio in the 31. You had a brief moment looking at those two, 34th and 35th. And you said it, Rachel, they were hoping for a yellow. They just could not get it in the opening stage of this race. And so they're trying to work together way back in the pack. It's about a 30-second difference between Cozy Jr., who's in 34th, and Joel Blewett, who is now in the tail end of the main pack in 33rd. Michael Cozy Jr., of course, the winner of the 2021 Firecracker 400. And so he's got a lot of experience racing super speedway races, so maybe we could see him at the front, especially if we get that coveted yellow flag that he would desperately need. And at the moment, here comes everybody down pit road. First 16 laps. We did not expect this, Rachel. Pit road busy, and it looks like Navarro slid the truck trying to get in. Could be a speeding penalty there for him. We'll just have to find out.
Now, I think he checked it up. Of course, you've got that first sector to kind of average it out. You will be okay in that first and last zone on pit road. But, oh, that was a huge knot of cars that just suddenly jumped, and everyone just reacted, dove it down pit road. Huge knot of trucks here. So this is going to make things real interesting for these guys as we try and get through this. This is probably where we'll see a caution. It's in that pit in, pit out section of the race here, which is where the potential exists right now between the different groups of cars in and out, and it will really make things a bit messy. We have got those Logitech guys leading at the front now. Lopez out front here. And one truck to keep an eye on in this one tonight is Seth the Merchant. He is fast on the super speedways. That guy is absolutely rapid. He knows his way around these tracks, and he is a very wily competitor. So keep eyes on that truck of Seth the Merchant, number 7.
Seth the Merchant, of course, third right now, and as David Brown was leading the group of trucks who had stayed out on the racetrack, they are still out. None of them have really hit pit road. The 3 Logitech G Altis Sports trucks said, okay, bye-bye, we'll go on our own team effort, and we'll just go around you with the amount of trucks that they have. So strength in numbers there for those trucks. It's Jordy Lopez Jr. in the lead with Tucker Minter and Seth the Merchant just behind. The first side-by-side out battle is indeed for 4th between David Brown and Santiago Tires, who was kind of left up there, and he's got Matt Danson now as a fellow truck right behind him to assist. So one of the only Logitech G Altis trucks that's kind of fallen out of this main pack. We'll see if anybody takes for pit road. Answer so far seems to be no. It appears around the top 15 through 17 trucks have all decided to stay out. Meanwhile, everybody around 18th on back, a pack led by Kenny Brady, decided to go down pit road. They've already packed in together, and maybe, just maybe, Rachel, they could catch up to this group if they've got enough time. But obviously, that front, at least trio, and the rest of the guys behind may need to also hit pit road very soon.
Well, the fun thing here is they've actually picked up Cozy and Sozio. So, or they will be in a second. So those guys actually might play into this somehow. We'll have to see how that goes, but this front group's going to have to come in soon at some point. And, oh, this could be our sticky point. It could also stay green. It could completely blindside us and be the green super speedway race to start out this Road to Pro series. I can't wait to see what they do with this. It's going to be real exciting, but right now this is Sozio. This is the we look back across his deck lid towards that charging pack of guys that just came out of pit road here. And, oh, they're coming on quick. I think they're going to go round them. I don't think they're going to pick them up. Yeah, they're pulling out the way here. They're not going to compete with it. Let them go. Hopefully try and tack on the back of this and pull around. But, oh, this has not gone the way that Cozy Jr. wanted.
He tried going up high, anticipated that everybody would freight train them, and so Sozio tags in behind. Now the problem for Sozio is that he is not the only Trout one lap down, because Andrew Navarro, we saw him sliding into the entrance of pit road. He got a pit road speeding penalty, had to stay down pit road for a while. He's now a lap down, and also bring in the 33 of PJ Evans, who's letting a good amount of trucks by that first group of trucks around. So now he's a lap down. So if we do get a yellow, then it means that Sozio may be out of luck, because he's going to have to pounce on the next drivers in Navarro and PJ Evans in order to get around to being on the lead lap. That is, of course, if we do end up in yellow flag territory. For the moment, many of the top drivers 21 laps in their stint. So Rachel, I think the signal is going to start to flare here. Drivers are now going to have to look for what is going to be green flag pit stops. And now the question is, what do the drivers at least 18th on back do to catch up? Kenny Brady, Kane Cook are significantly gaining time in some aspects. But of course, they need to get around the main pack first if they want to have any hope of controlling the pace here.
Yeah, they're going to have to try that. I don't know when that will happen, but if this goes green the whole way, it's a very dynamic race. I don't think it will, though. If we get a yellow, we'll get a rash of them, because restarts breed restarts. Cautions lead to cautions. But right now, it's going to be a strategy game. When do these guys blink here? This lead group with Jordi Lopez, Seth the Merchant, Minter, Pace, Brown, Therese. When do they blink? When are they going to go in? It's got to be soon. They've got to. But how will that play out for where they actually position on the track here? They've got a good knot of trucks, and they're running very fast. They're going to come out right about where the others are. That's going to get messy.
And here comes Tucker Minter. So while we saw a bit of side-by-side action for the front pack and that second one, they've got a batch of trucks there on top here for the lead. So Jordi Lopez against Tucker Minter going into turn 3 and 4. And it may look like the chance, at least the movement to pit road, is not going to be any time soon for any of these Logitech G Alta C Sports trucks, because now they've got a gridlock at the front of the field, Rachel. And this could pose very dangerous, because at some point, maybe someone's going to get tired here. And even before green flag pit stops, we could see a potential third line in formation. At the moment, though, not enough trucks to make that happen.
No, not anytime soon. No, there will not be a third line anytime soon. There are not enough trucks up here. Because the lines won't sustain themselves with this volume of trucks. It just will not sustain. So later on in the race, maybe once this pack pits and joins up with the other pack, we might see that if there's momentum in play. Right now, there's enough to have two lines. Forming a third, there's not enough in the upper line to even get that going. So I just don't think it's the right time for that. We'll have to see what they do with it, but they're getting really, really hardcore now. They're giving it everything they can before they go for this pit stop here. They're trying to just push, so they're in that nice, clean position to get down pit road here.
Right on board there with Jordi Lopez, your race leader. And while they go side by side for the lead, there's also a bit of side-by-side action for 17th on back. I mentioned Kenny Brady leading that second group of trucks. He's got Justin Bolton now charging up top with help from Kevin King in the 13. So while the lead group is starting to fight against each other, this second group is thinking the same thing. Justin Bolton, unfortunately, could not make it to the Contenders Series last year at Phoenix Raceway, looking for revenge as a former Stewart-Haas Esports driver in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Right now, that Ford F-150 getting substantial help from King, not enough to officially clear in front of Kenny Brady. At this point, Rachel, as the leaders go side by side, looks like the second pack is also canceling their effort to go faster than the main group, just because they're also side by side as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That second pack, the outside lane, hasn't got the momentum here, and they're up high. So they're kind of running two lines here, but they're not really suctioning up to each other. They're not close enough together to be really kind of using that almost magnets repelling effect of making the lines faster. So it's either one line or it's two separate lines, or it's that right up against each other, going fast as a pack. Right now it's not happening. They're just playing this game. In fact, the second line's stalling out here as we watch it in the second grouping here, and that's going to hurt the whole lot of them in terms of their speed. I'm really excited to see what happens when these leaders pit. Where will they come out?
We'll have to see as they come out of, I believe, turn 4 this time by. It looks like the Logitech G Alta C Sports truck will stay content. Looks like a move up high. David Brown sneaks in front of Tucker Minter, and so all of a sudden the former leader of this race who got in front of Andrew Navarro has now had enough of being the third truck in line. He wants to be the leader going into turn 1. He's going to have an official move there on the outside. Got the nose ahead for just a moment into the 31 degrees of banking before Jordi Lopez Jr. could get back to the bottom. He's got substantial help. Looks like he will maintain the lead. They'll be even all the way out of turn 2. But as we continue through the first 26 laps of this 80-lap feature here in the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series, we'll remind you that tonight's race is proudly presented by Elite Performance Industries, your home for iRacing setups, apparel, and driver development. contact the EPI social media pages to get in touch and learn from guys like the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers and champion Michael Conti. And for more information, you can visit ElitePerformanceIndustries.com. EPI, your home for all things iRacing. Pretty sure, Rachel, we've seen a lot of EPI trucks and EPI cars around the iRacing service recently. Elite Performance Industries, of course, supplying a lot of the setup, supplying a lot of the help for many up-and-coming drivers in the sim space. And, of course, it's been a lot of fun to see many of the developing drivers, even tonight, even if they're not a part of EPI, to go up into the ranks. I know a couple of drivers, Parker White, he's been on a very quick ramp up ever since 2020 when he was league racing in very local leagues, and now he's been able to move up into the series. You think of drivers like PJ Evans, you think Drew Farinage, how good they've been over the past few years and really over the past couple of months. It's been great to see all the drivers here in EPI, a very big part in many of the competitors you see throughout the series on iRacing today.
Yeah, certainly are, and I'm excited to see how this is going to play out for the future with these guys, of course, and I'm hoping for the best for those guys, of course. They're doing fantastic things at the moment, and across the whole sim as well. It is super exciting, but I'm losing control here. This front pack is still out here. What are they doing? What's going to happen? When?
They're staying out for the moment. 28 laps completed, and I figured that the drivers who pitted around lap 16 is David Brown, switches in front of Jody Lopez Jr. That'll leave Tucker Minter now, the next one to fill the space up top. I was surprised to see everybody pit that early, and it may indeed, Rachel, just be strategy. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, the fact that these green races can allow for different strategies to emerge out of the fold. So drivers like Kenny Brady and the entire pack behind him, they're just trying something different, maybe to beat these guys off. And then if these lead group drivers end up coming down pit road later, maybe it helps Brady and the gang to come back in it, be able to take position away, and maybe have a better advantage than they did when they started the race, when everybody was packed in all together. So maybe this is just something in the notebook that we don't know the answer to quite yet. The play is still in development. We're not sure whether it'll score the bucket, though, for them at the end.
Hey, can we call that second pack Brady in the bunch? Is that okay?
I think that's perfect. Look at Brady right there. He's leading the group. And Justin Bolton, by the way, still got help from Kevin King. They're still working up at the top, so they have not given up whatsoever on the very bottom side. It's just Kenny Brady all by himself at the front. He's got still help from the Toyota Tundra, it appears, of Kane Cook. They've got a bunch of trucks there on the bottom, so looks like everybody wants to maintain themselves stable. Justin Bolton has some space to go there just behind. We'll see if he pulls the trigger. Answer is no. Still side drafting the 27. Truck all the way on the bottom, so they will maintain each other there. And it looked like actually one truck had moved himself to the bottom. Kevin King, who is part of the team. Many trucks in the field for that team specifically. The team is a very interesting name for them. Very simple. Got a lot of trucks in this eNASCAR World Report qualifying iRacing Series field. And so Kevin King, one of those drivers, he's going to move to the inside. It'll fill the space. Andrew Navarro, a lap truck, will also be into this as well. He's now the fourth truck there on the very outside lane. So we are still trying to find out when pit road will be imminent for them. And I think, Rachel, it's going to hurt here if you're David Brown, because yes, you want the lead, you want to control the pace as much as you can, but you still have to pit. And if you're 100% throttle while everybody's pushing you, you're wasting the most fuel out of anyone. So maybe this strategy can't work for David Brown. I figure he knows that everybody here is going to have to pit at least once anyway, and he's probably going to join them when they do. The only thing is, he's wasting all that fuel up front with the clean air on the front end of his Chevy Silverado. Same deal for Tucker Minter, who's on that outside lane, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was a couple of the guys in the Brady and the Bunch crew that decided they wanted to go for this early off-brand strategy. And everyone else was like, oh, me too, me too, me too. No, pack mentality, they all wanted to go. And they all got down pit road and went for this thing. And, yeah, it kind of went a little nutty, but some of these guys here, of course, I think this main group are going for that actual strategy of the run the fuel numbers game. So it's going to split this thing entirely different, but, oh man, I want to see what happens when the two meet up on track, because it's going to be wild.
So 32 laps complete. This first group has still yet to pit. Maybe in the cards for splitting this race entirely halfway. Maybe The other ones with Kenny Brady behind, they want to split this into third, so they may have to pit more than once in this case. These drivers trying to make it all the way to the very end, maybe lap 40, before they finally take their eyes off of the racetrack and onto pit road for the first time. You saw a move for the race lead happen not too long ago. That was Tucker Minter. We mentioned him leading the outside charge with help from the 18 of Larry Pace. And Tucker Minter has since moved back in front of the lead, this time on the inside lane with help from David Brown. So I guess the concern for Brown here, pretty non-existent as Tucker Minter takes it away from him. It's like, oh, you have it. No, you. No, you. I'll let you by. I'll let you do this. I'll let you waste all the fuel. I'll stay behind and save you. But I like the point that you brought up, Rachel, the pack mentality. I think that's so important at a track like Daytona because you can't really do anything by yourself. You think of this package, you think working with people. We talked about making friends. That's also key in it as Larry Pace takes over the race lead. Santiago Tires will be the next driver up to line on the high side. But you need people to work with you, and that also goes into the same case for pit road, because if you go down pit road by yourself against the rest of the field and you come out by yourself, good luck to you. You're going to have no draft, you're going to have no speed, and therefore you're probably going to go either a lap down or more on the racetrack. You need a lot of people to go with you, maybe at least 2 or 3. You don't need that many, but you need people nonetheless to be there with you, or else it just does not work. So maybe in this case, people want to, like you said, follow the leader and just have it work.
See, the thing that's really interesting to me is this rear pack have not gained much. So this group that pitted early have gained a second overall since they pitted on the racetrack. They're not pushing that hard, which means they are going to try and get into sequence here, but I think they're going to basically end up blending onto track together with this pack. So they're going to come back together almost on top of each other because they've not gained enough time to be coming out ahead of them, and they haven't gained enough time to be lost enough time to be behind them. They're going to be bang on top of them, which is going to get messy so fast. Here we go. Here they are, I think. They seem to have hit pit road now.
Everybody hitting pit road. I saw David Brown and a bunch of the Logitech G-Altus Esports trucks go all the way to the very inside on pit road, so everybody will head into their respective stalls. It may be the easy call here, 4 Goodyear tires and some fuel, a splash to potentially make it all the way. They went 35 laps on this stint. So we'll see if they end up in a larger stint this time by a bunch of trucks coming out, but it appears Tucker Minter will be the clear winner off of pit road. There's an onboard look with Kenny Brady, who's leading this second pack. There they go, a quick pass going into turn 1.
That second might have changed everything for them. It's hard to say. Yeah, they've cleared them. That's a bigger gap than I expected. Oh, wow. Yeah, that second they gained over that lap has actually made a huge difference. Man, I didn't see this coming. That was not what I expected to see. They lost that draft by a big margin here. And, oh wow, yeah. This group are going to have to tighten up the notches, batten down the hatches and go for this thing. They're going to have to hook up here and run if they want this to happen. I was calling them coming out on top of each other, rejoining the track on the back straight, big lot of trucks, chaos. No, the hooked up line, they just went sailing on through. Well, I was wrong, just flat wrong.
They kept it clean at that point. Tucker Minter and the handful of the other drivers behind him, they have to start working now. A little bit of separation between what used to be the remnants of that first group to come down pit road most recently. And so with Kane Cook, who switched to the outside, got in front of Kenny Brady, he's now the leader, and they're going to try and control the pace of this race. The thing here, though, Rachel, is that while they're doing this, we know that David Brown, Tucker Minter, all the Logitech G-Altus Esports guys and the ones behind him, they know that these drivers up front, they have to pit at least one more time. They can't go all the way to this race on one tank of fuel, at least for the most part. So you'd figure within the next, I'd say 10 to 15 laps, they're going to have to take their eyes to pit road, and that means that Minter and everybody else can start to cycle back to the front, and they could probably stay out for the rest of the race, given the fact that they wanted to split this in half. So there's just 2 different strategies. Plan A, you've got these guys right here with Kane Cook, Kenny Brady, Justin Bolton, all the drivers behind that pitted early, looking for another pit stop later on tonight. And then Tucker Minter, David Brown, Seth the Merchant, everybody else looking to hold on in the second pack and make it all the way to the end on a tank of fuel. I was not expecting this, Rachel, whatsoever, to see these 2 strategies in full force, but here we are, and a bunch of trucks on either side could really tug the rope enough to take the lead away and take control of it all.
Absolutely. I think to see the strategy split so almost evenly throughout this field is more than I expected. I thought we'd see some strategy differences, some groups of cars, but to see almost half a field go one way, half a field go the other, This group here, if they can make it, they can make it. I think it might be close. I think they may need a splash, but there'll be no tires. This other group, they're going to want to have tires. So I think this could even out on the next sequence.
We'll see if it ends up cycling out in fruition. But so far, Kane Cook, former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver, is your current race leader, with Justin Bolton trying to take it away on the very top. So for the moment, this first pack, all double file for a couple of rows deep. Pretty much more than, I'd say, 15 cars in this group. You have to go all the way back, actually to 15th place, Justin Norwood, so exactly 15 trucks. And then 16th on back is where you'll find Tucker Minter and the rest of the gang just trying to catch up there. Also side by side, a couple of rows deep as you ride on board with Norwood. He's the last one in this draft, trying to hold on to what's left of this first group. But the time is starting to run out just a bit as we approach halfway in tonight's Daytona race.
Yeah, we certainly do. And don't forget, Battle Beaver has everything you need for your next professionally modded custom controller. With options for PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, and more, Battle Beaver has everything you need to elevate your gaming potential. Head to battlebeavercustoms.com to customize your controller. Use the code Daytona for 10% off.
Hey, that's fitting. Code Daytona, racing at Daytona, perfect combo. I think if you're racing here, you're watching the race here on Podium Esports, and of course glad to have everybody for what will be the first of many rounds of this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. But if you take your eyes on the race leader, it's a new face and a new colored truck. Up at the front, Jesse Atchison in the 24, moved in front of Kane Cook, and Jesse Atchison already up at the front of the field. We saw him do well in the Podium 500 just earlier last weekend, and he's just a pioneer, I think, in some ways, Rachel, on the super speedways. A very talented driver. He's been running like many drivers throughout the week. Daytona week, either in C Open, C Fix, B Fix, B Open, A Fix, or the NIS series that goes all the way through full length 500 miles. Jesse Atchison has picked up a couple of wins on his favor, and right now looking to get a win of his own as he approaches halfway in tonight's event.
Yeah, certainly is. And oh man, I feel for these guys right now, because it's still Sergio and Cozy Jr. all the way back there running as a twosome, the lap down truck, and the one at the very tail end of the lead lap. I feel so bad for them. They're 4 seconds from being picked up by the lead cars here and lapped. That was a great call, I think, by Cozy Jr. to play an off ball, avoid what he thought would be a huge wreck, and it's just not played out. You know, you make that brave call, and it's going to be the race that goes green. It is racer's luck.
Well, so far, Jesse Atchison leading the first group. Justin Bolton has still maintained hope, but he has yet to officially clear for the front, so the Ford F-150 is still trying, and everybody around 16th on back, starting with Tucker Minter and Santiago Tires. They're also trying to catch up as well. But as they come out of turn 4, officially for the halfway mark of tonight's round number 1 race in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, it is our time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break, which is always brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsports with virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and much, much more. Just mentioned Jesse Atchison in the 28. He controls this field from Daytona. Kane Cook not too far behind in the draft. He is P2. Kenny Brady so far wraps up the top 3 at this moment in time, followed by what seems to be Jake Nichols, Justin Bolton, and Brad Davies up to the top 6 before you get to Kevin King, Parker White, Casey Tucker, and Daniel Falkingham, Rachel Whiteford to complete the top 10.
Certainly do. 11th tonight is Drew Ferentz back there in the 15 machine with Tyler Gary. Devin Curl in 13th place, Logan Crest 14th, Justin Norwood in 15th place, Tucker Minter back there in the 16th spot with Seth DeMerchant in 17th, 18th, Santiago Tires.
Whoa, one track around all the way in the middle of the banking. I saw one spin by himself. I believe it was a black and orange truck that went around by his lonesome. It was PJ Evans in the 33. Apologize, Rachel, as we were going through our iRacing Midway Race Break. PJ Evans just lost the rear end of the Toyota Tundra, and all of a sudden, he goes around on his own accord. Take a look at this. This was pretty much on the outside, letting the main pack of drivers get by. Oh, and just a tight mistake there, Rachel. A slight tap of the wall, and that is enough to do it for the 33. As soon as he made contact with the safer barrier, the truck unsettled. He tried to save it multiple times. The truck, though, reverted around too much, And that brings out our first yellow all night long.
Yeah, I think he was desperate not to hit that bottom lane of trucks there. To the airflow just unsettled him here. He's got trucks waving up in front of him. He kind of wobbled the air maybe out in front of him. I'm not sure what that did to him, but it got him loose here in the corner as he's going up, catches the wall, tries to pull off the wall, thinks he's going down and just wiggles back and forth. You see that wheel going all the way around. Like, I got some calls from people saying, oh, that was on purpose, but that wasn't. You can't fake that one. That was he caught that wall, he tried to pull it off, and it just was the wrong place to do that, and it went round on him. That's interesting for what the strategy will do now. This is real interesting.
It definitely opens up the door, and we spent a majority of this race talking about what the first pack is going to do on pit road. And now this opens it up for pretty much anybody to come down for service, and this should, at least at this point of the race, get most of the drivers clear all the way to the end. We'll try to finish this iRacing Midway race break for you at this point. Jody Lopez Jr. is the last driver in P20. For Larry Pace is 21st. Brad Mahar is 22nd in the Ford truck. Daniel Roper is 23rd. Boyd Hogan currently holds 24th. Top 25 goes to Tyler Severa in the 10 truck, followed by Brian M. Smith in the 26th place position. Christopher Pfeffer in the 27th position in the 32 truck. Matt Danson has fallen all the way back to 28th. Justin Trombley is 29th. Joel Blewett rounds out the top 30. Before you get to Alex McCollum, he is the last driver, 31st on the racetrack, but he is the last driver on the lead lap. Before you get to Andrew Navarro, 1 lap down in 32nd. Michael Cozy Jr., 33rd, 1 lap down. PJ Evans, who just went around to bring out that caution, 34th, 1 lap down. Tim Sozio is the last driver in the field, also 1 lap down in 35th. So this concludes tonight's iRacing Midway race break with over 200,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. So Rachel, I think we have definitely blown the competition wide open, because the leader off of pit road is not Jesse Atchison, who was controlling the first pack. It's Tucker Minter, who was in the second pack leading.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this one plays out here. This is shaking things up big style, because that second group was only 6 seconds back at the time of the caution. So we've really mixed this one up, because they caught up real quick and we got to see them go through pit road here pretty balanced. But don't forget, folks, in the coming week, you've got some great stuff coming up, of course. We've got the Short Course National Series at Bark River on Thursday, the 17th, which is today at 10 p.m. Eastern, of course, on this channel. PCA Zone Group Championship Challenge, which is at Auto Club Road Course. That is tomorrow night at 9 Eastern on Podium 2. And we have MPI Cup Series at Daytona right here on Sunday, 7 p.m. on Podium Esports, with Operation E Motorsport iRacing League on Tuesday from Sebring to wrap up their series to support veterans. That is at 8 p.m. on the Oppo Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. And we have the eRacing Association Omega Cup Winter Bowl from Daytona next Tuesday night at 10 on the iRacing Twitch channel. Check those things out. You're not going to want to miss any of them.
Looks like a lot of races, Rachel, from the World Center of Racing. Call it Sim Speed Weeks. February is where everything kicks off, especially here from Daytona. You think about the Rolex 24. That actually wasn't in February. That was pretty much the last week of January. Happened in real life, happened in the sim. I for one, was one of the drivers competing for the very first time. I was nerve-wracked all over the place, but then go to the 500 this week. A lot of the drivers tackling the NASCAR iRacing Series NIS week for a full 500-mile affair, 200 laps. Many drivers have already gone to victory lane from top split all the way throughout the rest of the iRacing service. And then, of course, with the MPI Cup Series going to Daytona, same deal with the ERA Omega Cup. It's just going to continue what's been a great sim speed week so far on the iRacing platform. And also, obviously, if you want to continue tuning in, we've got a full truckathon tonight. Bark River for the iRacing Short Course National Series. Right after our coverage is done here from Daytona, it'll be 10:30 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/podium2. So you can go from here, where you'll find myself and Rachel Whiteford and Ryan Bauer on the production buttons, and then head for some non-asphalt truck racing on that side of things. So we are still ready to continue on through what's going to be lap 47 of 80 here on this restart. Tucker Minter is your race leader off of pit road. He's got his teammate Seth the Merchant to his outside. Justin Bolton, for the first time in a long time, he's now on the inside for once. He is now third on the racetrack with Jesse Atchison on the very top. David Brown and Jordy Lopez on the next drivers in that third row just trying to give assistance. So it could be a battle for the race lead, or maybe just a controlling of the field from Logitech G Altus Esports. Green flag back in the air after the first caution here at lap 47 of 80, just past halfway in the first round of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Tucker Minter clear for the field back to turn 1.
You know who the happiest person in this field is? Michael Cozy Jr. He's on the back of the pack here. His lead lap, he didn't go a lap down, so he is still good. But man, he has got to be so relieved right now that he is back in this race with his brothers from the Logitech team. He's 33rd, but it could have been so much worse, as this is going to get busy now. Trucks on the infield. Oh, here we go. It's lap 1 of a restart. It's either going to go green or it's going to get spicy fast.
I saw 3 wide around where Tim Sozio and Michael Cozy Jr. was. You could also find Devin Curl in there as well. He went to the very inside to avoid complete catastrophe. They keep it clean near the rear of the field, but all the way up front, guess who's taking the outside line once again? Justin Bolton in the 26, side by side with Tucker Minter for the race lead.
Oh, absolutely. He must have bolted on another engine to that machine, because that is moving fast right now. The outside line has definitely got a good run. They've got the wind in their sails, and they're going for this thing. A restart's a great time to make some opportunities, but with 2 lines pushing this hard, things can give, so be very much aware. And the shoving is getting pretty aggressive up there at the front. Truck right behind Bolton. Atchison's going hard for this thing. He is pushing as hard as he can, trying to get him up there, but it's just not quite enough right now. Here we go. This is really getting going. 33 to go on the track right now, and we are getting into some hot racing.
And now you got to think, with that little taste of a shove from Jesse Atchison to Justin Bolton, that could be what we're going to see for at least the rest of the race, because for the most part, many of these guys are good on fuel, so they can pretty much almost go all the way to the end of this race mistake-free without having to go to pit road whatsoever and worry about potential green flag pit stops. So those pushes ultimately going to get a lot harder, and the drivers are going to be a little more aggressive. We have yet to see a third line in implement, just because there are not enough trucks there on the second lane to maybe push out to a third. But you never know. It could always happen as we approach 31 laps to go. Justin Bolton makes the switch around in front of Tucker Minter. So Bolton, for the moment, in 3 and 4, will take the race lead convincingly. Atchison, the next one on the high side to try and take it away.
I think there's still enough trucks on that high side that it's going to keep its momentum going. It'll need a moment to get itself powered back up again, but they're already coming on again. Atchison looking for that lead as well here. And yeah, this second line needs a couple more trucks, and then we might see a third develop. But the amount of shoving here, and the fact that everyone knows, I think they're good here. The positions on track now mean so much more. We're going to see so much more aggressive pushing, so much more aggressive side drafting. This is where these guys are going to go for it, to try and get themselves into a good position here on this racetrack. Should another caution fly? Should this go green? You've got to be up at the front now, so now it means everything. There's no more strategy. It's go, go, go.
So you watch a former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver in Justin Bolton command the field so far, with Jesse Atchison to his outside. One driver we haven't talked about really, we mentioned Kane Cook as another eNASCAR Coke Series hopeful here that was in this series a while back. So was Brad Davies, who's currently riding in P8. If you can remember watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for years on end, you can recognize that name, Junior Motorsports, and the affiliation he's had with that team for so many years. But then over the past year, of course, things happened. Did not have the greatest season on the Coke Series field, and then got shuffled back to Contender, where unfortunately he was not able to defend his spot in the Coke Series. So he is now here in Road to Pro at step 1, scratch pace, to try and get back to the top level where he was comfortable for so long. Brian LaPrade, now the other teammate with Michael Conti at Junior Motorsports. But I think that's just a testament, Rachel, to the type of driver you see here. You see drivers that are, for the first time, competing in this series full-time, trying to make it to the Coke Series for the very first time in their sim racing career, which will be the biggest series they would compete in. And then you look at drivers like Davies, who are just trying to get redemption, trying to get the fire lit underneath their stomach to get back into the highest competition in sim racing to compete for $300,000. Brad Davies making that first step tonight.
It's a big reason to race hard here. $300,000 is no chump change. They all want it. They're all hungry. You can see it in the racing tonight. These guys are going for this thing. And this is the best opportunity for some of these guys to really put some solid points on the board going forwards here. The next couple of tracks, we've got some interesting ones coming up. And it's going to be really exciting to see. Dover will be interesting. Atlanta will be very interesting. Some of these tracks are going to be a real curveball, and I want to see what they do on them. But right now, Daytona, you've got to set the baseline. This is the freebie. You can get some solid points here without a huge amount of planning and strategy. You can work it really well. You can get lucky. And it's the one track where you can get absolutely lucky. You can just be that car pushed to the front at the right time. Of course, it needs high-level strategy and planning and skill. I don't doubt that, but this is the one place you can bring luck into the equation in this level of racing, because you can just be right place, right time.
And also, you also have to couple into account that Daytona, this race, round number 1, is the only super speedway race in the entirety of the eNASCAR Road Report qualifying iRacing series schedule. So nailing down a super speedway setup comes down to just here and just here only, because you only go to 1.5 miles, you go to road courses, you go to short tracks, you even take a bit at dirt as we see 3 wide action. Kenny Brady, for the first time, manning a field up at the front. He's up to the 3rd lane. He's got a couple of drivers to help, Michael Cozy Jr. being one of them, and you mentioned him, Rachel, all the way near the rear of the field, and at this point, he's got a chance to compete for the lead as Kenny Brady switches down low, leaves open Jordi Lopez Jr. for the middle with help from Davies.
Oh, if it's going to go wrong, this is where it's going to happen. But yeah, Cozy Jr. right up here. We know he's fast, and he must have been so desperate. Now he's on the lead lap. Now he's back with the group here. They've got a good run going, and they are motoring here. Davis, big shot up the middle. Just absolutely pushed through in this one as it's up the middle again for 2 more trucks here. Here was one of the Logitech trucks. I think that's Jordi Lopez getting shoved out to the front, but oh, they're wrecking.
Already big trouble behind them. Multiple drivers switching around. I see Matt Danson involved. And now the caution waves. It looked for a moment as if it was going to stay dead. We were going to stay green. But indeed, we do have a caution here. Lap 54 of 80. Just under 30 laps to go from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. And I believe, Rachel, just started with 3 wide action. I mentioned it was going to get more aggressive. It definitely did, and it began with Matt Danson in the 30. He tried to go for the middle. Atchison tried to do the same at the same time. And you can't share real estate here at the Daytona International Speedway. They both got together. They both wiggled across the track. Matt Danson, though, with a fantastic save. Everybody else, by the way, did a great job of slowing down to avoid getting into Danson. So Danson avoids complete catastrophe and does not get much damage on his Silverado. This will look from Bolton. And that's how close it gets here at Daytona. But he was able to escape.
You know, for a minute there, that looked phenomenal. Then you could just get that strange vibe of 2 hours after Taco Bell. That look on their faces as things started to get a little too wiggly, like you said there. You were saying it was getting wiggly, but they just felt that bubble, and then it was like, oh, here it goes, and here we go, wrecking in the high banks of Daytona. Trucks getting sideways, getting into each other, and it just goes round and round and round. That was lucky there was only 2 trucks, really, that got caught in that, because that could have been monumental. We were 3 wide, baby. 3 wide here at Daytona. That was just, oh, this is truck racing.
You know, immediately when they step out in the 3rd line, I don't know if I'm the only one that does this. I immediately jump out of my seat and I'm like, oh my God, they're too close to wrecking right here. But of course, these are the best drivers in the sim racing service in this Road Report qualifying iRacing series. And luckily, most of them were able to keep it clean. Seth the Merchant is your leader. But while we're under caution, we'll take a moment to remind you that we are brought to you by, and this race is brought to you by Boosted.biz. Boosted builds a custom platform for your brand to sell your products. They take care of everything, and you can pay nothing and let them handle the rest. To get started with your online store, visit boosted.biz today. You figure, Rachel, that the drivers who were 3 wide looking for the boost? I don't know, that joke.
I like that, yeah. I saw the attempt at a link there. You went for it, but speaking of boosted, it's that middle line that brought the 7 of Seth the Merchant to the front. He definitely had Boosted.biz on board with that truck there, because he was flying before this thing went south. And it was like going out of a cannon. Like that middle lane was it was like a particle accelerator or a railgun. Like, you just had that acceleration of the side draft from both sides of the trucks, and they went just shooting forwards. And the Merchant leads this thing here with a yellow flag. He's going to have to restart here. We saw some guys pit, but most of them stay out here. So this is where things get spicy. A restart on used tires. If it's going down on a restart, this will be it. Maybe I'm a little bit too wreck-centric here, but this is a super speedway. This is where it happens. You don't want to see on the 1.5 miles. You want to see skilled, awesome racing, but the big banks of Daytona, you want to see awesome racing, but you want to see the big crashes too. And oh my God, yeah, this place provides, but the 3 wide action was strong. but I think it made the air a little bit turbulent behind those guys. It got things a little bit upset for them, and it just got a bit too spicy. And unfortunately, we had a bit of a moment there. Thankfully, it wasn't too many trucks that were damaged. That could have been really tragic to start people's seasons out here, but it's going to be an interesting restart, that I can tell you.
And with 3 wide action, I don't fault you for having that approach. So where you think a wreck's going to happen, you anticipate the big one, because I think the drivers on track right now are still anticipating the big one because it hasn't happened yet. That was what could have been very close to it with Matt Danson, who, by the way, is taking a trip down pit road. He is 33rd, now merging onto the racetrack safely. That could have been it, and it wasn't. And so now in the final, what's going to be 23 laps in this race, once we go green, it looks like, then things are going to start to pick up, and we may indeed see the big one strike for the rest of the field. So Seth the Merchant is your race leader for Logitech G Altus Esports. Andrew Navarro, by the way, we haven't seen him since he got caught for speeding on pit road. The pole sitter is now outside row 1 with Brad Davies behind him with Seth the Merchant. Daniel Roper, who started back in 24th, he's now outside row 2 in an attempt to help Navarro get back to the race lead where he stood when the green flag dropped at the start of tonight. Boyd Hogan completes the top 5. Jordy Lopez is to his outside, so Lopez is going to have a little more work to do to get back to the front of the field. Kane Cook in the 22, he is 7th. Kenny Brady is 8th. Larry Pace is 9th. And then rounding out the top 10 is the 19 truck of Santiago Tires. Many of the field, or many of the top 10, influx of former eNASCAR Coke Series drivers. Some of them trying to return, some of them trying to get there for the very first time. And in the final 23 laps of this race, still everything is up in the air at the World Center of Racing. Night falls over Daytona Beach, Florida. Seth the Merchant, the Ford F-150, ready to bring us back to green. Pace car made its way down to pit road. A even start between the Merchant and Navarro. Back under green from Daytona with 23 laps to go.
It's great to see Navarro back up here at the front. He started on the pole, of course. Now he's ready to fight for this thing, and the front is going to be the one safe place on this racetrack right now, and everyone's shoving super hard. Oh, off the track goes the 21 of Navarro. He goes up the high line. He's going to get railroaded backwards here. Just got wiggly on the front bumper there of that truck of Davis, and it sent him sideways, and he got up there. He's in a big knot of trucks now. This is getting busy here. Trucks diving to the low side, getting out of the danger here. I think that was going to be Brady diving down there. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was Bolton diving out of the way. He wanted to out of that danger zone for a second, but this is getting a little bit racy here. Yeah, Bolton got clear of that. He just ducked down and out of the way. We've got some banged up trucks here as well. That truck is not going to help anything there. The 96 truck, he's going to be a little bit rough on the push. He'll be able to push but not be pushed, so that's going to make things exciting towards the end of this thing. But now a third line is already formed here. They're going for this thing. We got a 3 wide. We did that last time. No problem. 3 wide's not a trouble. Let's do this thing again. And it's going to be interesting because it's only 3 trucks, but it's enough to get things going with that middle lane.
And they're building drivers here. They're getting more patrons. It went to 3 to 4, and now they get 5 with the help of Jesse Atchison. Now bring in number 6, Andrew Navarro. We saw him get shuffled out just a couple of moments ago by Daniel Roper. Found help with Kenny Brady. They let him in on the second line, and all of a sudden, Andrew Navarro says, forget this. I'm going for the race lead. 2 Tundras versus a Ford F-150 out of turn 4. To Merchant, though, a big push from Brad Davies to keep him in the lead for now.
Oh, this is definitely on now. 22 to go here, 21 at the line, and we are 3 wide, racing trucks at Daytona, and this is round 1 of the Road to Pro. These guys are setting this thing off with style. They want this thing to go all night long, and this is how the season's going to go. You don't want to miss a minute of the racing here. This is going to be one of the wildest seasons we have. It's 3 wide abreast for the lead here of this thing. They're all even down the back straight. Look at this thing. Oh, you could take a beautiful field photo of this thing. This is truck racing. I am too excited right now. Race car, race car, race car.
Bit of a shuffle there from Jordy Lopez Jr. in the Ford truck as he still tries to give help to Andrew Navarro, who's fallen back just a little bit off of the 31 degrees of banking, but off of the corner is especially where you can get these big runs because the inside lane checks up a little bit. They don't have as much momentum on the shortest way around the racetrack, and so that's what you're seeing right now, the effect of the second and third line taking advantage of the run off of the corner. That time by Daniel Roper got enough to be even there with Seth the Merchant. Navarro is going to fall back. Couple of trucks kind of backed out of that move there, Rachel, so it may be a little daunting. Now here comes Kenny Brady to make it another truck. They're blocking up top. That's Kane Cook in the middle.
This isn't the last lap, guys. Come on. No blocking on the top lane. What is it? What is this? They're blocking here with 20 to go. The second lane's falling apart. The third lane's falling apart. They're trying to make one of them work. No one knows what's going on. Where are we? What day is it? Up to the second line. We see one of the Logitech trucks move. They're drawing even with the leader here. They actually could make a move on this one. The second line's hooking up and going fast here. They're going to pull a couple of trucks clear on this one. But they're going to drop down and they're going to panic it and go in. Oh, he's hung the 34 out to dry. It's 3 wide yet again. They killed that momentum on the second lane. Top lane comes through. Oh, yeah. This is great.
Kenny Brady got a big run there on the very top lane because Brad Davies decided to let everything taking a hand in the middle, and Seth the Merchant decided to merge down low. So Davis is now middle 3 wide. He gets pushed by Cook. They wiggle all over the place. Brady almost got caught up in the mess. They're trying to pick up the pieces of what was a destroyed puzzle right there in 3 and 4. Brad Davies controls the high line, but somehow, Rachel Whiteford, they keep it straight.
Hey guys, these are race trucks. You're not chucking a lawnmower in the back. You are not meant to be cutting the grass. We had at least 2 trucks there on the grass on the infield before turn 3. This is ridiculous. With 18 laps to go. Contact. Big hit there. Slapping sideways. 2 there caught the grass, for God's sake. And they roughly kept their positions in this thing. They've lost a lot of speed, but oh man, this is getting silly. 4 wide trucks at Daytona. Are you kidding me?
You saw the replay there. It was a slight misalignment on the bumpers from Kane Cook to Brad Davies. I figure Brad Davies had his heart stopped for a moment as he was wiggling across the track. Made slight contact with Kenny Brady. But for the most part, they seem to be okay. Minimal damage on either of those trucks, so they'll be able to continue. But what this did do, Rachel, is break up the field. Now a second pack of trucks is starting to catch up, but it really brought everybody out of their rhythm. So what used to be a third line is now completely non-existent. There's only one truck trying to help up there, maybe get a couple of drivers up to that third lane as he tries to get all the way through, but it is just not enough at this point in time, and it looks to be, I believe, Alex McCollum in the 8 machine. Indeed it is, all by himself, and is lonesome there on that third lane. But so far, Kane Cook to the back of Seth the Merchant. He's giving the push. Daniel Roper is leading that second lane, and so far, again, like I mentioned, McCollum trying to bring a couple of trucks up high, but it looks like nobody wants to take the risk for now.
Someone got a headstone carved. That third lane is dead. It is not happening again anytime soon, although they could convince us otherwise. The 22 is probably making that 16 truck behind him panic rather severely. In fact, everyone's starting to do that now. This is going to be interesting. But, oh, wow, the second lane is pushing hard here. They've got a lot of trucks in it. There's a bunch of guys further back. If they can get momentum, they can make this happen again. But the high side, it did kind of die from it. Now they're hooking up again. And if they don't be careful, they're going to die for real. And it will not be 2 trucks this time. Yeah, we said the big one hasn't happened yet. It happened in the actual heats, but these guys are looking for it to happen here too, I think. Somebody wants a wreck.
So now they develop a third line here. I'm sorry, Rachel?
No, go right ahead.
Well, they're starting to develop the third line. A wiggle there from up front. That's Daniel Roper trying to decide where the momentum is falling through. It's Brad Davies who got shuffled out but finally found the hero in the form of Alex McCollum. Logan Kress is the 3rd truck in this group. They tried to build a 4th in the form of Justin Bolton, but Bolton fell out of it. Jesse Atchison may be the next truck in line to help. So 4 trucks now all the way at the very top. Still 3 wide for the lead. Kane Cook switches in front of the Merchant for the front point in turn 1.
Somebody got the defibrillator out because that third lane is alive again. And they are going for something, but it's 3 trucks. No, they lost the rhythm. No, sorry, we're calling this one. It's not quite there yet. They're going to have to do a couple more rounds of CPR here. Maybe chuck some adrenaline in there if they want this thing to go again. But they are going to try what they can here. Bottom 2 lanes are running healthy, and they're getting good speed here. They're staying hooked up, but it's that third lane keeps forming, breaking down. And right now 2 trucks is not going to cut it. They've pulled on the trucks behind them here, and this pack is just soaring.
And they're going rather quickly, and Brad Davies still help from McCollum, and despite only being 2 trucks on the third lane, Rachel, they're still finding a way to keep themselves on pace with the likes of Roper and with the likes of Cook, because this time behind in turn 1, Davies is going to be even with the race leaders. Cook will follow ahead. He's got the most trucks on the very inside, so the strength in numbers is helping the 22 truck at the moment. But now they've built up 4 trucks on the very third lane, so that is still not over whatsoever. We are underneath 15 laps to go from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. This time in a turn 3, Cook versus Roper. Cook the leader for the moment.
Oh, this is on. Roper is trying for this thing right now. Cook is holding on to it. Now, Cook's had a bit of a blinky moment a few laps ago, so this could still get spicy, but I don't know what happened. Someone just asked what happened to 16th on back. No idea. They're in a different race. They've fallen way back. They lost that draft, and they've just checked out. Maybe they think this lead pack are going to just destroy it. They're going to end up in the grandstands or maybe at the airport across the road because they have checked out. They want no part of this thing. We've got 3 even lines again. We've got good rhythm on these hearts, and they're going for this thing, but I think one of them at some point is going to have a coronary.
Well, at this point, you talk about 16th on back. A lot of the drivers in that second pack. Remember when we almost had that big wreck with Brad Davies and company? They could split everybody up, and all of a sudden it looks like Tucker Minter and Boyd Hogan are among the drivers trying to lead the pack. But the problem is here, Rachel, time is running out, so either they need a caution to happen right here in this first pack, or they need just something else. They need them to slow down significantly for the second pack to start to cling up, because at this point they're racing each other. That second pack really isn't gaining too much as we come to 12 laps to go. Der Merchant now moved to the inside. Kane with a wiggle there to get turned by Roper. A big crash there. That's exactly what the second pack was hoping for. Kane Cook gets turned on the chute between the tri-oval exit and turn 1 by Daniel Roper. Here's the look at the replay. Again, Rachel, another misalignment of the bumpers, but that time Cook was not able to save it. The field was not able to save it either. And
he's
Cook
on the corner
goes for a spin to bring the caution out.
He had him on the corner of his bumper, and he just turned him into the wall there. But I gotta say, this kind of started from a fat block from the 22, which, I mean, I've never seen a 22 block anything that cause a wreck. Don't know what you mean. But no, he caught the bumper corner there. It was just unfortunate positioning. You can see him here in the tri-oval right on the corner, and he hits him here, he catches him there again, and he just tips him right in. Oh, round he goes, and I think that Logitech truck right behind him just got the luckiest break in his life. I think he got saved by someone's connection there, because that was gonna happen. I think from the second he jumped up to that high lane and just blocked that momentum, he was trying to go back and forth, you know, kill the momentum on the bottom line by pulling out to the second lane, pull that second lane forwards, drop back down again, control the lanes, and he just, the 2 trucks just smushed back there. I think someone needs to dial back the PDAs, but he just got caught in the worst place possible. I think he put himself in a position there for it to happen, and it was that momentum killing kind of lane switching that just cost him everybody there. Some big taps throughout this field and a big bang further back by 2 of the trucks, but that pack that broke off when we had that little bit of a, they're going to wreck, a couple of guys kissed the wall. They thought, we'll back out of here, they're going to have a big wreck, and they weren't wrong. They're going to catch up now. It wasn't as big as they thought, though.
And the gap that was once very large between the first and second pack is now rather non-existent. It's completely gone. That's exactly what I mentioned. They were hoping either for a yellow or to just naturally catch them on pace. So as we get under 10 laps to go here from Daytona, that second pack filled with trucks, Tucker Minter, Boyd Hogan, and many others that were just trying to hold on to the draft. They now have a potential chance here to win this race. Fortunately for many on that incident, not too many trucks got as much damage as we would have expected. Kane Cook, though, of course, got the worst of it. He has since pulled it behind the garage. Kane Cook, one of the DNFs here in this 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series in round number 1. And obviously, if you've been hearing our voices, you want to know who we are. Kenneth Bunn, Rachel Whiteford in the broadcast booth with Ryan Bauer punching all of the buttons. Nicholas Weatherby on social media, making sure you get engaged on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are, wherever Podium Esports has a social media account. But of course, things are far from over here from Daytona, because now, Rachel, we think about green-white-checkers. We've got 3 attempts. So that is on the table, but we're going to get a restart with at least guaranteed under 8 laps to go here, which means if we thought things were crazy with around 25 laps to go, think about the pushes, think about the lines. We'll see when it's single digits left in the race.
You know, I've been to my doctor recently. I had a health checkup. I have a healthy heart. My blood pressure's normal, but honestly, Kenneth, right now I am fearing for a heart attack, because these guys were racing crazy with 20 to go. Now we're restarting inside 10 to go? I can't take this. No, this is going to go so wild. I don't think they can keep it together. Never mind me. This is about to go down at Daytona. This is how you start a season. This is how you start this first stage. 10 laps to go. We're going to be restarting here at Daytona in the trucks. We've been 3 wide. We've been 4 wide. Don't go 5 wide. Please. Please. No. Don't do it.
I don't even think they can go 5 wide.
On the back straight, they can.
They can make it happen, probably. I know double yellow line rule is kind of up in the air, but I'm not sure 5 wide would be imminent. 4 wide it could happen. We've seen 4 wide before. Talladega can easily give you a prime example, although Daytona, in difference to Talladega, it is way narrower, so it's a lot harder to make lines on the racetrack. You can go 4 wide here at Daytona, but you got to give the most minimalist amount of space in order to make things work. And obviously, with the way drivers have been kind of bouncing around the racetrack in the draft, trying to make sure they can balance the clean air with how much they're pushing the driver in front, it is rather hard and kind of almost impossible to have without any sort of contact. 3 wide, though, perfectly on the table. So is 2 wide, so is single file. So at least within that realm of possibility, we could have that happen. We are ready for a restart with under 8 laps to go here in this 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series in round 1. Seth the Merchant, who's been very competent on the super speedways, very competitive. He now holds control of the lead. He will have Daniel Roper just behind him to help. Jordi Lopez is kind of the one on the outside of this sandwich on the inside lane, so it'll take a little bit more work to try and split the number 11 truck out of the way. Kenny Brady is the one manning the charge on the very high side. Andrew Navarro, remember, he got a speeding penalty earlier tonight under green flag pit stops. He now has a chance to win this race, so that mistake now pretty much irrelevant here. He's competitive at the front as well. David L. Brown, who led a good amount of this race tonight, he is also in contention. He is the 3rd truck on the outside lane. How about drivers like Parker White and recent birthday boy turning 20 years old, Daniel Falkingham, in the 9 truck. We are ready for a restart. 8 laps to go. DeMerchant, Brady, Pace car makes its way down. DeMerchant with a solid start. Brady going to try to fill the space on the bottom. Almost blocked Roper out of there to chop him off at the exit of the trioval. DeMerchant, though, leads the field back to turn 1.
Here we go. This is it. The restart. This is for the money. 8 to go. They're going to go for this thing here. They want to get this done now. And oh, I got shivers, Kenneth. This thing is going to go big. And somebody's going to go home because they're already on the bottom side there. We had that Logitech truck there with the Merchant just getting below the yellow slightly. Oh, they're 2 lanes up now. They're looking for a 3rd lane already. They're hooking this thing up and they are going. I think the big call by some of these guys there sitting back a little bit, hoping this lot destroy themselves. And we go to Green-white-checkered because this is going to be wild otherwise. And it's going to be this front group that do it no matter what. They're already 3 wide. They are not holding back now.
You saw 3 wide. They're still 3 wide as Jesse Atchison has help from the 31 truck, it looks like, of Logan Kress. That's the only success they had. They had 3 trucks there with Alex McCollum to follow, but McCollum thought it was better to just fill the space in on the 2nd line just behind Daniel Falkingham. And so he will be just behind. There's that bright red 8 truck sponsored by JDR Graphics. That's Alex McCollum right there trying to hold them behind Falkingham. But up at the front of the field, they are wiggling all over the place. You can tell Jordi Lopez may just want to split. Daniel Roper here, he wants to work with his teammate near the end of this race. They're wiggling into turn 3. Kenny Brady, though, with an opportunity to take the lead back.
Oh, they're going for this thing big time now. This is... They're all over the place. These trucks are wiggling so much. I've never seen trucks move around this much. But this is 7 to go. They're on top of this thing. 3 lanes are starting to really form up now. The backpack is catching here. We're going to have a huge knot of trucks here as this thing builds. Maybe within 2 laps, we'll see this really hit a crescendo now. And I cannot... Oh, God. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat here. This thing is going crazy. DeMerchant holding on. He's got his teammate behind him, Lopez. They're pushing hard. This is what teammates are for. This is that moment when they're necessary. And it is going hard.
And at this moment, 3 wide as Daniel Brown got help from Jesse Atchison. They finally built up an army of trucks there on the 3rd lane. The question is, can they find enough momentum? Atchison strikes the wall, wiggles all over the track. Kress is able to split. Now they're sideways. Caution flag waves. It's a big one behind them. I see Drew Fairnarge involved. I see Logan Kress in it. So what we were expecting, Rachel, bunch of drivers to get caught up in the mess at this point. And I believe it all started with the tap of the wall by Jesse Atchison. Checked up the field. and multiple drivers are involved. Logan Kress slams into what appeared to be one of the team trucks, the 26. Michael Cozy Jr. is involved. And it's just a big mess in 3 and 4.
Oh, that might be our big one. It might be the one we get. I hope it's the big one because enough trucks were involved in that. But yeah, Atchison just slapped that wall. People panicked and backed out, and they backed out a little bit too much. And it was more of a fear caution. They saw it happen. They thought it was going to wreck down into them. If they'd have kept it going, they'd have been fine. But unfortunately, that checkup just bottled people into each other, and trucks got turned, and there's a mess on the racetrack.
Just a confirmation, by the way, the 26 in the middle of the team truck, that is Devin Curl, who's on the inside lane right underneath Casey Tucker, who was right behind Logan Kress at the time of yellow. Just started there. Jesse Atchison struck the outside wall, just trying to hold the line. Unfortunately, checked up. And I mean, here at these super speedways, when you make the smallest of mistakes, it could snowball into a very big catastrophic event. It's exactly what happened there with the truck of Atchison as he slightly tapped the wall. Kress tried to check up. He moved down, slammed into Devin Curl, and then from there, Casey Tucker had no choice but to stay on the back bumper, trying to slow down. Kress tags Michael Cozy, then tags Drew Fernars, then tags Jake Nichols. Another tap there as well for Logan Kress. A lot of damage to his truck, and many of them on pit road as we are potentially in realm of green-white-checkered territory. Still more to come from the Daytona International Speedway. We'll take a short break, but you won't miss a thing as we continue coverage of round 1 in the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Set the Merchant, your leader at the moment. Welcome back to the virtual Daytona International Speedway, where we are preparing for a potential green-white-checkered finish in the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Glad everyone's joining us here on Podium Esports. Kenneth Bueno, Rachel Whiteford in the broadcast booth, with Brian Bauer punching the buttons in the production trailer, Nicholas Weatherby on social media. And just want to remind you that if you want to end up over in a certain place for iRacing setups, apparel, and driver development, you can look no further than Elite Performance Industries. Contact the EPI social media pages to get in touch and learn from guys like eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Michael Conti. For more information, visit ElitePerformanceIndustries.com. EPI, your home for all things iRacing. Lights are out, Rachel, on the iRacing official pace car, and I know you've been kind of antsy about what's happening when they form 2 wide, when they form 3 wide, when everybody starts to go across the entire track. Your thoughts before we go green here?
Oh, I don't know. Not right now. No, don't do this to me. This thing is getting silly now, and we're going to be 2 to go here for the restart. Green, white, checker. Oh, oh, there's going to be a mess. There's going to be a huge mess. I don't think I've been this amped up by a truck race in a long time. But these guys have put on a phenomenal show tonight. No matter what happens, bravo. This has been fantastic racing.
You know what, Rachel? I'm not going to lie here. I'm feeling the same right now. I'm seeing them go 3 wide. I'm seeing them go all over the place. And I am insanely eyes focused on this battle right here for the lead. Everything that's happening, the draft, how drivers are working with each other. And it appears if you've had teammates before, at least teammates to work with, if you're a lone car without a large pack of drivers like Logitech G Altus Esports has, then you're probably just going to be open to work with anyone, because whoever's there is where you're going to find them, and that's how it's going to be with 2 laps to go. Set the Merchant is your race leader. We'll see how long that lasts on the racetrack. Daniel Roper to his outside, and the good news for the Merchant, he's got help from a fellow teammate in Jordy Lopez Jr., a previous winner here in Road to Pro competition at Daytona. Pace car makes the left for what could be the very last time in this race in round number 1. Saw a couple of trucks wiggle around. We're back under green. 2 laps to go as the Merchant holds control of the field.
3 wide in the back of the field already. These guys are going for it. There's not much time left. That low side has an advantage if they can hook up early. There's teammates there, but teammates aren't going to matter at this stage of the race. Everybody wants this thing. Lopez Jr. is pushing as hard as he can right now. He's going to get it back to the back of that 7 as they come onto the back straight here and shove it with everything he's got. This is the time to go. This is when it all matters. On the outside, Roper, Brady, they're going for this thing. Roper's on the front now. He's just got a nose ahead. Into 3 they come. And this is going to go big next time by.
You can't complain. If you're Seth the Merchant, you've got a teammate right behind him. You can trust that driver right on your rear bumper to give you the push ahead of Daniel Roper. As they come out of turn 4, this race looks to be official, and as they cross the stripe, it will. White flag in the air for Seth the Merchant and Daniel Roper, still side by side for the race lead. Nobody nosing ahead convincingly back to turn 1.
Here comes Roper on the outside. That 11 truck looking strong now, coming through here. Here's the big push. The 16 hooking right into his teammate De Merchant. They're going to go for this thing. It's the Logitech trucks on the low side who are looking so strong. They've been in a race, back in behind. They're going round. Here we go.
Around, multiple drivers involved. That leaves about, I'd say, 9 trucks right there in the lead pack. It is still even for the lead between Daniel Roper and Seth the Merchant. Brown got turned around in the 3rd lane, trying to make something happen, but as they come off the 31 degrees of banking, Seth the Merchant, Daniel Roper, a drag race to the start-finish line. The F-150 surges ahead, and Seth the Merchant wins round 1 of the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series from Daytona.
That came down to the wire, Kenneth. That was insane. We had the big wreck into the white, and we had a huge drag race at the end. This is racing.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
I can't either. Seth the Merchant.
Wow.
In the 7 truck. There's a celebratory tap from his teammate. There's Tucker Minter. There's Jody Lopez. And we mentioned earlier in tonight's broadcast, a total of 11 trucks, a full army from Logitech G Altus Sports. And what a way to start off 2022 and this Road to Pro qualifying iRacing campaign with a win with Seth the Merchant in the 57. As he's going to burn it down, and he will bring us tonight's Martin Sports winning moment. Martin Sports strives to produce the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether it's shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has you covered. They also offer gloves specifically crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. Use code PODIUM today to receive 25% off any racing glove at martinsports906.com or visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/martinsports. Seth the Merchant to victory lane. Rachel Whiteford, what a run to the finish. They were side by side all the way throughout, and although they did wreck behind them with David Brown and a bunch of others, that 9-truck pack gave us a very clean finish, and Seth the Merchant noses ahead at the tri-oval to get the checkered flag.
It was that 3-wide pack right behind him there where it happened, and boy did it go down big in that rear grouping there. Kind of unfortunate to see that happen as they got turned around and just took out a lane of trucks there. 4, 5, 6 of them wrecking. But it was this drag race here. De Merchant and his teammate Jordy, I tell you what, De Merchant owes Lopez Jr. a drink. That was one hell of a push he gave his teammates. And it was that teammate moment there that brought this thing home for those two. They hooked up hard and they went for this thing. That was kick-ass. That was racing. And they ended this thing as excitingly as the entire race was.
And I mentioned on that restart, you wouldn't have anybody better pushing you than a teammate in Jordy Lopez Jr., who, by the way, comes home on the podium. So Logitech G Altus Esports completes a 1-3 finish. Daniel Roper splitting the difference in the very middle. Well, as Seth the Merchant with his teammates continue to celebrate on the tri-oval here at Daytona, we'll bring you your full rundown of see where every driver finished in round 1 of this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Of course, Seth the Merchant starts off in the best way possible this season going into Las Vegas. He is the winner of the first race in this series after 80 laps of racing in organic green-white-checkered. He noses ahead of Daniel Roper in the 11, who comes home in P2. A great effort by both of those drivers. Drag racing all the way to the start-finish line. Jordi Lopez Jr., a previous winner, not the win tonight, but a third-place finish. Still going to give him some great points going into 2 weeks from now. Parker White, in his very first Road to Pro start, full-time racing for him. The one truck rather, ends up in P4 with Kenny Brady just behind him to complete the top 5. Logitech G Alta C Sports was represented by Tucker Minter in P6. Alex McCollum, who spent a good amount of the race going 3 wide racing, he is P7. Andrew Navarro, who started on pole despite the pit road speeding penalty in the mid part of the race, he ends up 8th. A great run for him. Tyler Severa from 16th, he ends up P9 at the end of it all. And Brian M. Smith starting 27th. Rachel Whiteford completes the top 10.
11th place tonight is coming home is our driver in Matt Danson there, with Justin Trombley in 12th place. 13th, Larry Pace there. Christopher Pfeffer in 14th. Brad Davis, 15th place there. Devin Curl in 16th. Jesse Atchison left that wall script there, back in 17th place. Boyd Hogan in 18th. 19th, Jake Nichols, and 20th there, Kevin King.
21st belongs to 33rd starting place driver Tim Sozio. A great rebound for him after being 1 lap down earlier tonight. Daniel Falkingham, unfortunately, I believe, got caught up in the last lap mayhem. He comes home 22nd, with Justin Norwood in 25th. At the start of this race, he is 23rd, 2 spots better. Drew Fernage ends up in a big one out of turn 4. He ends up 24th, with Joel Blewett behind him, the 2 truck, in 25th. Brad Mahar ends up completing the top 26, with David Brown getting turn of the last lap of the Daytona Super Stretch. He is 27th at the end. Logan Kress, despite multiple attempts to get a third line going, his end result is 28th. Casey Tucker is 29th. Michael Cozy Jr. started from the pits. Unfortunately, got caught up in a big mess in 3 and 4. 4 laps down into the top 30. Final drivers in this field include PJ Evans, Santiago Tires, Kane Cook, Justin Bolton, and the 20 machine of Tyler Gary. 15 laps down. That is your full 35 truck field here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. So Rachel, I think the only word we can describe this race is with wow. Wow. Unbelievable racing all throughout. But if you liked this race here at Daytona, the only super speedway race we'll see in this entire campaign, you're going to love the pack racing, the great amount of swiveling around the racetrack. And then at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we'll head to the West Coast for the very first time in this Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series season. And when you switch over to a great race at Daytona, I can imagine Las Vegas is going to do a great job to top that one.
We had a lot of gambling here on this high banks of Daytona. And wow, the gambling will only get bigger as we head to Vegas next time out for this series. And that track brings its own very different challenges. I cannot wait to see what happens. This was just mind-blowing. What a way to start a season.
If you loved tonight's action from Daytona, you'll wait to see the action 2 weeks from now. Las Vegas Motor Speedway comes up next, March 3rd, 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll find it same time, same place here on the main Podium Esports Twitch channel. So for Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports, for our producer this evening, Ryan Bauer, our camera builder, Dougie Beard, our man, Nicholas Weatherby, covering our social media tonight, and for my colleague in the booth this evening, Rachel Whiteford, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Thank you so much for watching tonight's coverage of Round 1 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, as we congratulate Seth the Merchant on his very first win this season, starting off on the best foot possible. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from Las Vegas, but for now, tune in to twitch.tv/podium2 as Truckathon continues from Bark River.